So this is Paul and Andy's podcast, and we are thinking of calling this Grey Matters, which wasn't my idea. It was a friend of mine who I let have a sneak preview of what we've been up to, thinking he'd say, well, that's a lot of old tosh. Why should I ever listen to that? And he said, oh no, I think a good title would be Grey Matters, which I liked because, obviously, we're going a bit grey around the edges here.
Yes.
So it works from that point of view. Grey matter is your brain, isn't it?
Yes.
Colloquial for that.
Mm-hmm.
And also there was another one, wasn't there? What was the other?
Non-binary.
I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but yes, non-binary. So we're not polemic, we're not black or white, we've got a grey.
Yes. A lot of things in life are in that grey area. They don't fall into right or wrong or black or white, whatever you want to call it. So yes, I suppose Grey Matters is quite an appropriate title because we're talking about a lot of stuff that is in that grey area. By the way, incidentally, just before we started this, you took a handkerchief out of your pocket. I think you're the first person for many, many years, man or woman, that I've seen using a handkerchief.
Well, what do they use? Their cuff?
Well, a tissue. And then they throw it away.
Is it unhygienic?
No, I wasn't meaning that. I just think it's a nice thing.
It's a nice spotty handkerchief.
It's lovely.
I think it's bogey free, to be honest with you. So I feel I could lend it to a lady should she need to dab her forehead. But I've always been a handkerchief person. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I just thought my dad's got hankies, and this is no. I'm not saying men at a certain age. No. I'm just saying it's nice that you're keeping that tradition alive. But I've never had them.
Paul Lever, keeping the tradition of handkerchiefs alive.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be famous for something. But thank you for noticing. Paul and Andy's podcast, The Grey Matters, the handkerchief, the matching tie and handkerchief. No tie on. I don't wear a tie though. Do you ever wear a tie?
No.
When was the last time you wore a tie?
At a funeral last year.
A black tie?
No, it was a green tie because my uncle who died, his favourite colour was green, and so everybody was asked if they'd wear something green about their person, and so I went for a green tie.
I've got about 30 ties.
I've got loads, but never wear.
What are we going to do with them?
I don't know.
When we die, will they tie them all around our necks?
I've no idea. And you don't see people wearing ties either.
No. Well, newsreaders. They still wear ties.
Yes.
Did you wear a tie when you were a newsreader?
Always. I never did not wear a tie. I think that, and this is going back quite a few years now, but I think times have changed. You do see a lot of men presenting the news with an open neck shirt. I have to turn it off.
What about doctors and professional people?
Yeah, well, they'd say that a tie gets in the way of a doctor. It's in
the way?
Well,
I mean, it droops into the kind of intestinal rummaging that they're doing.
Because they have to have their sleeves rolled up, don't they, for hygiene purposes.
But they have to do a bit more than that, to be honest with you. I know. They have to get the old Swarfiga rub on.
I only made day one of medical school.
Just roll your sleeves up, son. We're doing an appendectomy this afternoon. Come on, we can do it. No worries. Is that a handkerchief you've got in your pocket? Could you put it away and use Kleenex? Thanks.
Exactly.
Anyway, what do you want to rant about? Because we allow ourselves the cathartic kind of blare of ranting about something, don't we, for the first bit of the podcast, and then I ring a bell, and then we say rant over, and then we might talk about something else more important.
Yes, it's basically to unburden ourselves, because we carry this stuff around with us all the week, or all the time, in fact, and it's good to get it out, isn't it?
It is, I think
so. I'm trying to think. Well, what about you? Have you got any...
Well, I've usually got something to rant about, haven't I? Last time it was about motorists and their bad driving. So if you want to listen to that again, listener, you can listen back to two old geezers having a rant about poor driving. Because this is what if you were to describe what a podcast is, what this podcast is, you'd say, well, it's two blokes of a certain age whining on about things, wouldn't you? Yeah. They do talk about certain things that are interesting sometimes.
Well, you mentioned driving the last time we spoke, and I want to know, where are all the used cars? Because there should be loads of them on the market now, and therefore they should be a lot cheaper than they currently are. Because everybody, well, if you read certain papers, convince you that everybody's going electric, although nobody is, but don't tell anybody. And people are buying new cars, and there are lots of new cars on the road, and all these big people carrier things, and cars that are just too big. They're just too big. So where are all the older cars?
Well, I can tell you where a lot of them are, because I've been to a dealership recently. Let's just call it Evanelpus, shall we? That's where I went. It's a very big national dealership, just been taken over by an American company, I'm told.
Oh, right.
So we went up there, my wife and I, to look at another car, because our other one it's got to be got rid of, basically.
The ashtray full again, is it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the car apart from the warning light goes on, which tells us there's lots of things wrong with the car. And then when we spend £160 to find out what is wrong with the car, they said, "Oh yes, there's these things and other things, and it'll probably cost you £1,000 to put it right." So we've got to get a new car. Anyway, my particular rant this week is nobody can sell anything anymore. We go up to this big dealership, and we peruse the extensive range of largely Japanese cars, I have to say. And we took one for a test drive. It was a Lexus. Now, Lexus is the premier brand of Toyota. Has a very good reputation, and I must say that we really liked it. And we thought, actually, you know what? This ought be good. You know, we looked at some others, but we drove anyway. So we drive back, and we've got the money to go. But sadly, we lost Helen's mum recently, and her mum will finance the car. That's nice, her late mother. So we've got some money, and we say, I'd like to do a deal with this car. Oh, we don't do deals. Sorry?
What?
We don't do deals. We don't. I said, you're a car dealer. Sure, you've done deals ever since I've been buying cars. You go in and you say, I see the screen price is 10 grand, but I've only got 7.5. And you go, well, we can't come that low, but we could probably do 8.5, and we'll throw in some car mats. That's what traditional.
Yeah.
We don't do. And not only that, no other dealerships do deals, apparently. That's what I'm told. Probably the smaller ones, the smaller companies, they will.
Yeah.
So I said, well, okay, I have to accept that then. But what will you give us for our car, our old car, as a trade-in? It's obviously old, it needs some work doing to it. And he said, I'll have to go off. Well, 20 minutes later, he comes back, he says, I'm sorry, we can't find it on the system. He didn't say anything else, so he went away again. This is 10 to 5 in the evening. We've got some money waiting.
Yeah.
To pay for this Lexus.
Yeah.
And he comes back, he says, oh no, we can't. And I said, look, I don't like to be rude, but you want to sell a car to me and I want to buy one. And you're not prepared to say to me, your old Honda is only worth 50 quid. You won't even give me a starting point.
No.
I said, that's great. Oh, well, it's the computer says no.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what's become of it? And I thought, well, we're not going to buy the car. I said, well, thank you very much. We'll go somewhere else. Thank you. I mean,
so they lost a sale.
They lost a sale, and we didn't get a car.
Yeah,
which is got to be crazy, isn't it?
But this is the problem, in that we don't think for ourselves. We're not encouraged to think for ourselves anymore. This is the beginning of what computers are doing to us, because computers have all the answers. So, does it worry you that your car wasn't on the system?
Well, it does, because it was very old, 17 years old.
Yeah, that's not old. That's not old these days.
Well, it is as far as cars are concerned. What concerns me more is that the system couldn't be overridden, so that he was a young man. He could have said to his boss, the sales manager or manageress, you know, I've got a deal going here. They want to buy the car. We get that one shifted off the forecourt, and he could have come back and said, go and tell him we'll give him 200 quid, but that's it.
Yeah.
And very likely we would have gone, okay, because it saves us the ball ache having to put it on eBay or whatever. Yeah. But no deal. So, you know, we're back to square one looking. We may not even buy that sort of car. So that's my rant for the week. We've forgotten how to sell things. We're not good at service in this country, are we?
No, well, we never have been. I mean, traditionally, this is before computers came along, we're always terrible at service, because the Americans are always better at it.
Why is that?
The have a nice day attitude and all that, you know, the sort of service industry in America is thought of as a proper profession.
But why?
Because they help people. They're there. They're giving service to people.
In this
country, it's almost like, well, I don't want to do that because it means working with the public. I don't want to do that. Is
it to do with the personality and the characteristics of British people that we don't want to interface with other human beings? Is that it?
I don't know. I think a lot of people think it's beneath them.
Really?
to sort of, be that person who is there to make sure that somebody else is having a nice time, as opposed to them having a nice time. And I guess in the States, it's the tipping culture, isn't it? That everybody tips in America. So that if you are in a sort of service job, you do pretty well financially if you're good at it, because you get well tipped. We're not good tippers in this country, and we resent giving money, extra money, for a service we've already had. I've already paid for that. Why am I paying again?
Yeah, to an extent, I quite agree, because we were never tipped in our industry, were we?
No.
If we had existed on tips, then we would have been bust a long time ago.
But I think it's a mentality thing, and this is the problem, that we've never been good at service in this country, and now computers take all the decisions for us. People aren't thinking for themselves. So you get, abroad, if you went to, I don't know, Marrakesh, to a market and bought something, you'd be haggling probably for about an hour or something.
Yeah, well, it's like that scene from Life of Brian, isn't it? You've got to haggle with me. No, I'm quite happy to pay that price. No, go on, that's the game. Play the game, haggle with me.
Well, that's it. And sometimes you get things for a really cut down price, and other times you don't, depending on a lot of things. But we've lost the ability. We never had the ability to do that in this country. I don't think we're natural hagglers either. We get terribly embarrassed about it. But it's sort of nigh impossible to do now, because people say, right, no, that's the price. I can't move from that. I don't have the authority to move from that price.
You're saying it's a cultural thing, and America's very good at it, and we know that. So you'll get somebody's. This is your waitress for the day. She's going to look after you. If you have anything you want, just ask, and she'll come. And, whereas here, it's like, excuse me. We've been here an hour and a half. Could we order?
Yes.
Would that be okay? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there is a cultural thing. I don't know how it's going to pan out, because with houses we haggle. We don't say, you want how much? £250,000 for your house. Okay, you don't do that, do you, with houses?
Only in a housing boom, when there are 15 other people interested in the same house that you're bidding for, and it's on for 250,000, and you probably think to yourself, I better offer them 260 just to make sure our offer is accepted. Because if you don't, then you get into a position where 4 people are putting the asking price offer, and then it goes to sealed bids, which is just ridiculous.
I mean, what has seal's got to do with it?
Exactly. They're not even qualified.
So you're listening to Paul and Andy's podcast, or Grey Matters as we call it, and we've had our rant. And I really wanted to say that I'm fed up with moaning, and I'm sure there's a big round of applause from my wife about that. I can hear it. In fact, I wrote to a local paper recently, my local Gazette, and I suggested, because everyone was moaning about potholes and water shortages and people's parking and bird mess and dogs mess, I suggested that we form, tongue in cheek I have to add, that we form a society called the South Hams Angry Person Society, or whatever, hoping that people will join it. And I won't go to the meetings, obviously, but I just spectate from the corner of the bar. And we do moan a lot, and I know I do. I think it's because I feel passionate about things and I want to get them changed. But of course, feeling passionate and wanting to get things changed don't necessarily sit as good bedfellows. If you're going to be moaning about stuff, you're not going to turn people round. You've got to take people with you. You've got to be positive. It's the art of positivity.
Yes, you have to. But I think a lot of people have got a lot to moan about at the moment. That's the thing. And it's a bit like crying wolf, isn't it? If you moan a lot, then it loses the impact when you do actually want to moan, because people say, well, you're always moaning. So I can understand why people become so discontented and so aggrieved with the way they feel about the world, about the way the country's going, that sort of stuff. I mean, there are lots and lots, and I don't want to get into politics at all. But, people just, I don't know, absolutely fed up with
the government,
with life, whatever that is, whether it's politics or whether the state of the roads, like you say, or whether society generally, or the price of petrol or whatever, or just the cost of living generally. But I think I can't remember a time when, certainly in my lifetime, when people had so much to moan about. It's like everything all at once at the moment. I mean, yes, there have been periods in my history where something hasn't been right, or people are moaning about this or that, or but it's always been specific things rather than, it feels like everything at the moment. I mean, politicians always say if people want to make a real difference, they should get into politics. But then at the moment, we've got politicians saying that they don't really want to be in politics anymore because of all the abuse that they're getting from people. So politics, always a tricky area to get into. One has to be a political thinker, a political animal, or just a regular person. But it's becoming less of an attractive thing, and people are thinking even the politicians really can't make a difference because they're tied by party politics and chief whips and all that sort of stuff. And you get a shed load of abuse from your constituents.
Well, of course, what hasn't helped with that is social media.
No.
So what hasn't helped with it, that's an understatement of the day, isn't it?
True.
Social media gives us a platform to secretly or covertly have a go at absolutely everybody that we want to have a go at. And it's done more for negativity than anything ever has, I think. And I don't know how we counter that because we're in it, aren't we? We're in the soup.
Yeah, and obviously social media, I'm not a huge fan of social media. I think there are some good things that social media achieves, but generally I'd say it's in the 10% of social media is good, 90% is negative, and that for me is just one of the reasons I don't really go on social media. I don't like negativity. I don't like people being abusive towards anybody else. I'm a real live and let live person. If I don't agree with somebody, I say, look, we'll agree to disagree, and that's fine.
Well, that's what we've lost the ability to do,
Yeah.
I think, to disagree well. Now, I might have a completely different political opinion from you, but we would still be mates because you'd say, well, it's interesting that you think that. Tell me why you think that.
Yeah.
But we don't seem to have the ability or the mechanism, or social media doesn't, to dialogue. In social media, it's a one-way street, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it's a one-way street the other way. So it's not a proper discussion. It's not sitting around a table, literally or metaphorically, and teasing out different viewpoints. And in so doing, then you refine your own views or you change your views.
I think we've greyed the area between argument and debate. Debate is a very healthy thing. You respect somebody's point of view, but you put the opposing point of view to them. And if you don't believe that, you will test somebody's beliefs by playing devil's advocate. But argument is just disagreeing with somebody.
No, it isn't. You knew I was going to do that.
Have you paid for that?
Is this the right room for an argument? I told you once. There you go. Yes, I see. No, I agree, and I think we have to make light of these things because they're so dismal, these subjects, aren't they, quite honestly? But getting back to my contention about how to grow positivity, there's a few things I've picked up en route, not today, but over the past months and years, that we can decide how we are going to be on any given moment. So we can decide that we're going to walk out of our kitchens and be as nice as pie to our family and our spouses, or we can stomp around, passive aggression, not speak to people, and we can do that until we go to sleep on an argument and wake up and decide the next day whether we swing our legs out the one side or the other, literally or metaphorically, and say, actually, I'm sorry about yesterday. Let's have a clean sheet here. Let's go for it. Let's look, the sun. Oh, look, it's a grey, miserable. But that's a good day to sort out those things we were going to sort out. It's about an attitude.
Yeah. My other half, she always says, if I say, oh, we've got to catch a train to so and so, and I'm all glum about it, she'll say, look, treat it as an adventure. Treat everything as an adventure. Let life unfold, and let's not have content prior to investigation. Let's just go with an open mind about everything, and that way you're more likely to see the wonder in things rather than to see the downside.
Yeah, it is being able to see the good.
Yeah,
there are very few individuals that I've met who I've looked up to and gone, you always see such lovely things in people, such lovely qualities.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to exaggerate and say if there was a murderer or somebody who's committed a dreadful crime, but even then they would say, well, they've done a bad thing, but they're not intrinsically bad people.
Yeah,
and yes, they may need to be locked up, but we should still love those people. They have an ability to do that. Now, is that philosophy? Is it faith? Is it upbringing? What gives you that?
I don't know, but what I do know is you should hold on to the way that you feel when somebody does something nice for you, like opens a door, or you get great service in a shop or a restaurant. You go out thinking, oh, he was a nice chap, or she was a nice woman, and try and make somebody else's day by being that person that goes and smiles at somebody and says, good morning, even if you don't know who they are. Make eye contact with them and ask how's your day, or whatever. But take a genuine interest in people, because we're all very, very similar. And for every person you meet every day of your life, somebody knows something you don't.
Hey? What do you mean?
Everybody that you meet every day in your life knows something that you don't, so we can learn from each other.
So I've never looked at it that way before. I've never looked at it that way. But I do know that you can change a course of direction by a smile. And that might seem glib. And you sail and I sail. We've never sailed together, actually. We should do it. Podcast on the boat would be fun, wouldn't it? But you can adjust your sail, your main sail particularly. You can adjust your sail by a little bit, and you can, and your rudder, and you can change your course quite dramatically. And I think we are all empowered, as we were talking earlier about empowerment. We're all empowered to make those changes. We can decide to pay forward, which is another common parlance, isn't it? You pay forward in a cafe the next person's coffee or lunch or whatever. But if you pay forward that gratitude, and this is something that I think we've lost. When I was growing up, I'm sure people would say good morning, and you'd say good morning. We were brought up to say good morning, hello, not quite how do you do, because that was a bit stilted, although probably still hanging around in some areas. But just connecting with somebody, and it never ceases to amaze me that you can be walking through a wood or an area, you meet somebody else. You'll find it easy to say hello, a nice weather, isn't it? Or what a lovely day. Have you seen the pigeons flocking over there? But if you're in more of a crowd, then that doesn't happen, because you're not acknowledging somebody else's existing on the same planet, are you? It seems strange. What are those people thinking? Are they thinking, I don't know him, I don't want to talk to him, why is he talking to me?
Could be a nutter.
He must be weird. I don't know why I'm doing it in a West Country accent. It's nothing personal.
Because we're in the West Country. Suspicion. And the more we live in silos, the more suspicion there is, because we don't know what's going on in the other silo. So if we connect more, we know more, and knowledge is power. And power is great in terms of being able to spread some happiness and positivity.
Yeah. Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.